Did you know that the 19th Amendment was ratified 104 years ago this week? Welcome back to Theater History Thursdays. Today, we're talking about suffrage theater. In Part 1, we'll look at the start of this form of theatrical propaganda in England. Part 2 will cover its transfer to the US. Suffrage plays were a potent and deliberate propaganda vehicle that emerged first during the British women's suffrage movement in the early 20th century and then spread internationally. Suffrage theater was influenced and inspired by Ibsen's New Woman plays, which portrayed strong female characters taking charge of their own lives. The suffrage plays, most of them short one-acts, aimed to convince men in power to reconsider their beliefs and support women's right to vote. They also served as a major fundraising tool through the selling of tickets and other merchandise. Most of these plays featured middle-class, educated characters making rational and logical arguments for women's right to self-determination. Humor was especially powerful, turning the arguments against suffrage on their head and mocking the fears of those who imagined society's collapse if such a thing were to happen. Many of these plays required minimal props and no sets, so they could be and were performed everywhere, in private living rooms, civic halls, women's clubs, and even outdoors. Elizabeth Robin's Votes for Women is considered the first script categorized as a suffrage play. Robbins, an American actor who had relocated to London, was known for portraying the heroines of Ibsen's plays. This motivated her to join the suffrage movement, and her play was adapted from her debut novel, performing at the Court Theatre in 1907. Cicely Hamilton and Christopher St. John's How the Vote Was Won was performed in the following year, and it remains one of the most popular of the suffrage plays. Edith Craig was also an incredibly well-known director and pioneer of the women's suffrage movement. She founded the Pioneer Players, a theater society based in London that became so popular it was even accepted into mainstream English theater. She produced close to 150 plays with them. The Actresses Franchise League was founded in England in 1908 and had reached 900 members by 1913. The AFL was the primary organization for theater women advocating for the vote, and they partnered with other groups to write, produce, and tour these propaganda plays throughout Britain, the US, and even to South Africa. It is estimated that there were at least 200 plays written between 1907 and 1914, although the majority were never professionally published and so have been lost. We have a special place in our hearts here at New Perspectives for the suffrage plays. In fact, we included How the Vote Was Won in 2015 as part of the On Her Shoulders reading series. And the involvement of U.S. theater women in the movement led us to create Suffragists from the Stage. But more on that in Part 2. That's all for this week. Stay tuned to learn even more with New Perspectives Theater Company.